think one of the things that I wanted to highlight here is why did I come to this conference? This is because the importance of what logistics and communications bring. This is the first time that we've combined both logistics and communications, but they are absolutely critical, as everyone knows, to military operations, and you can't conduct operations without them. Unfortunately, we don't always invest in logistics and sustainment like we should. And so this is part of why we're here, is to highlight the importance of that, to highlight the importance of that foundational investment, and that no matter what weapons or future technology you buy, if you can't sustain it and you can't get it to the battlefield, it doesn't matter. And so this is an opportunity for us to come together and talk about it and talk about why this matters. I think everyone is aware of the threats that we face. There's a terrorist threat, there's illicit fishing, there's illicit mining, human trafficking. The flow of narcotics onto the continent has more than 6 times of what it was 2 years ago. These are all converging threats that all of us face at some level and require some level of coordination. Foundational to that is the ability to communicate and the ability to move equipment and material and people to the point of need. One of the things I wanted to just talk about briefly is I was recently in Tunisia and had the opportunity to go to the American Cemetery at Tunis. The picture up here on the screen is a picture of a mosaic there. And what I found interesting is the mosaic's about logistics. That's not common. But a lot of the effort during World War II across the continent was the movement of equipment from the United States, from the Lend-Lease program, to the Soviet Union to keep them in the fight prior to the US entering it. 45% of the equipment that was sent to the Soviet Union came through Africa and up through the Caspian Sea. What I want to highlight there is the number is hard to see on there, but the airlines, the air flights, and the routes, and the number of logistics nodes that were necessary to make that successful. That required communication, it required sustainment. All of those needed logistics in order to make that happen, just to flow equipment across the continent. A continent that everyone here knows and understands the challenges of. Some of the harshest terrain in the world, some of the longest distances in the world, that were a huge challenge 80 years ago, but still remain challenging today. And so being able to come here to talk about this and to engage about how can we work together, how do we cooperate, how do we coordinate our efforts, how do we make this work? We've done it in the past. We've done it with less technology than we have today, but it's still one of the biggest challenges we faced as military professionals. And so as we look at this, and I just wanted to use that as an example, that Africa is still critical to the world and world security and world stability, and that we must plan for these contingencies now, and we don't have the luxury of having excess resources. So how do we maximize those? How do we leverage new technologies, new capabilities in order to be more effective? This sustainment and this logistics is the path to independence and the ability to operate independently and to execute and defend our nations and protect our people. Part of this conference is to bring people together from across the continent to share information and understanding. We know we can't do this alone, and for us to listen to what our partners need and what the challenges are that they face in order to find common solutions. The more interoperable we can be, the better. Communications is one of the most difficult challenges, not just language barriers that occur, but also just communications and equipment that can work together just so we can talk and understand and coordinate our efforts. And that's why we've combined our logistics and communications conference, because they go hand in hand. I could give another example, historical example here, but I'll, in the interest of time, I'll continue forward here. But as we look at this, I think one of the things that we have learned is that while the African environment can be challenging, some portions are harsh, it always tells the truth. it always highlights what works and what doesn't. Things that may look like they work on paper or work in another theater may not work in the challenges here on the continent. Another opportunity for us to look at those and understand what works, what doesn't, what technologies can we bring, experiment with, modify, adapt to the challenges that you face every day. Also, looking at this, we're at an inflection point in history. The changing character of war is occurring right before us. Much like the industrial age changed warfare, the digital age is changing it right now. We see it with drones, we see it with digital communications, satellites. It is a different environment than just 20 years ago. We have to look at how we adapt to that. How do we move forward? How do we incorporate the right technologies? And I think that's piece of it as we look at this is there's an intersection between security and commercial development. And how do we partner effectively with those commercial entities to bring that technology forward and apply it to the defense and security of our nations? We've brought some folks here with us in order to do this because there's a convergence between security and economics. I've got a representative from our Department of Commerce here who actually has some familial ties back to Ethiopia. I won't steal all his thunder, but his father actually flew for Ethiopian Airlines in 1949 and he's honored to be back here today. Mark Mitchell, appreciate you coming out. We've also got 26 different companies out here with different technologies that may be of interest. Whether or not it's exactly these companies or not, hopefully there's opportunity for you to engage with them, talk to them, and understand what may be possible and what may be out there that could help solve some of these difficult problems. These are all vital. You can't do this without it because hungry soldiers don't fight. You can't fight if you can't communicate. And if you, no matter what, no matter how heroic, no matter how well trained your soldiers are, or your airmen or your sailors, if they aren't supplied and they aren't sustained, they won't be able to fight. Which is why I came here today to kick off this conference and to highlight the importance of what we're doing today. As I said, I think we can learn a lot here. This applies to many different factors. It's not just moving things. My surgeon is here too. He's in the back because logistics and medical support go hand in hand. And you can't take care of your soldiers, you can't take care of your battlefield emergencies if you don't actually think about the medical and the medical support that's required behind that. So again, how do we bring all of these to bear in order to have the greatest effect? It doesn't have to be expensive, and it usually isn't exquisite, but it's something that has to be invested in and developed. So with that, I think as we move forward, we look to innovate faster. We have to be comfortable with the unknown and comfortable with experimenting with new capabilities. I also think that as we talk about this, we look at opportunities, not just crisis. We look for common lessons, look for innovative solutions. We need to test it, break it, test it, evaluate it, and move on and make it better. Moving forward quickly does not mean that we move forward perfectly, but it means we learn together and that we develop things that work. So with that, I appreciate this effort. For me, it's an honor to be back here in Addis. I will say one more piece is there's a connection here when we bring the industry together with security and the importance of stability in a country. One of the greatest examples of that partnership with the United States and Ethiopia is Ethiopian Airlines, where John C. Robinson came here in 1935 to help establish the Ethiopian Air Force, but more importantly, he came back after the war and helped establish Ethiopian Airlines. The reason I want to highlight this part of it, though, in this conference is not just that John C. Robinson came here and worked with Ethiopia and Haile Selassie. He actually, when he built the airlines, made a point, because he was an engineer by trade, that you can't just buy aircraft and train pilots and expect you'll have a successful airline. If you want it to endure, you have to invest in the logistics, the depot maintenance, and the sustainment of it. And the fact that we are here several decades later, and Ethiopian Airlines is still the largest airline on the continent, is a testament to that vision and the investment that Ethiopia put into their future by understanding the importance of the logistics and the sustainment behind it. Because Ethiopian Airlines wouldn't have survived past the 1960s if they hadn't built that infrastructure to support that going forward. And at the time, it was very expensive, it was difficult, but you can see the results today. And so as we look at that, again, highlighting the importance of logistics, the partnership with commercial entities, and how to bring that to bear to greater security for all our nations. Because we are at a point of great challenges, and it takes all of us together to meet those challenges. So thank you for your time. Thank you for the energy and the conversations that will occur, and we look forward to continued partnership.